I think before we go into introductions, just firstly, I'm Dave Bryant. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Local Government, Environment and Development Planning. Do we have any apologies, Mr. Kutsia?
Chairperson, we received apology from Member Marie, Member Constable, and Member Masipa.
Okay.
Member Van Minnen is standing in for Member Masipa.
Thank you very much. If there are no further apologies, I am going to firstly introduce the members in the House. It's myself, and then if you could introduce yourselves, gents.
Thank you, Chair. I thought you forgot our surnames now. I'm Member Wessels. I'm a permanent member of the committee. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Johnson, a member of this committee.
Thanks very much. If we can then do a quick round of introductions. I know we do have a number of officials present, but oh, sorry, we have Member Van Minnen online as well. Member Van Minnen, if you would like to just say hello.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I am Benedicta Van Minnen, and I am an alternate in this committee. Thanks.
Great. Do we have any? We don't have any other members online, I don't think, do we? No. Okay. All right. Minister Bradell, if you would like to begin and introduce your team.
Good morning, Chairperson and Committee. I'm Anton Bradell, MEC responsible for Environmental Affairs and Development Planning.
Goeiemôre. Good morning. Gerard Gerber, the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Naidu, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cape Nature, the entity of the department. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Denver Hendricks, and I am the past chairperson of Cape Nature for the period that is under review. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Kiki Loubser, incoming Chair, Cape Nature.
Good morning, everyone. Anwar Ghafoor, Acting Chief Director, Management Support.
Good morning, Johannes Fritz, Director of Financial Management within the department.
Good morning, Ayub Mohammed, Chief Director, Environmental Governance, Policy Coordination and Enforcement.
Good morning, all. My name is Fezeka Mabusela, Chief Director, Development Planning.
Good morning, honourable members and colleagues. Marlene Larosse, Director for Biodiversity and Coastal Management.
Good morning, all. I'm Hussein Isaacs, Director, Climate Change.
Good morning. I'm Ron Mukanya, Director, Sustainability.
Morning, Ibrahim Ari, Cape Nature, Risk and Performance.
Morning, everyone. Barry Barnes, Cape Nature, General Manager, Strategy, Governance and Risk.
Morning, everyone. Ahmed Basir, Director, Environmental Law Enforcement from the department. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Karen Chippy, Chief Director, Environmental Sustainability.
Good morning, Chair, honourable members. Salim Haider, Director, Waste Management.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members, colleagues, Director, Air Quality Management Department. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Kobus Munro, Director, Development Management.
Good morning, Francois Wist, Program Manager of the RSA Program.
Good morning, members. Helena Jacobs, Director, Development Planning, Intelligence Research, and Acting Director, Spatial Planning.
Good morning, everybody. Alan Rhodes, Chief Planner from the Spatial Planning Directorate.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Coral Burst. I'm the Executive Director for Biodiversity Capabilities at Cape Nature.
Good morning, Shiraz Ismail, Executive Director, Ecotourism and Access.
Morning, Mohammed Bayat, CFO, Cape Nature.
Thanks very much. Sir, if you could introduce yourself.
Apologies, Chair. Morning. My name is Deval Botha. I'm from the Auditor General. I was the Audit Manager at Environmental Affairs.
Thank you very much. All right. If we can then move on to the first item on the agenda, which is going to be the review of the annual report for 2023 on the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. And Minister Burdell, if you could kick us off just with an introduction and a few words, and for the HOD as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the committee for the opportunity to present the annual report of the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning for 2023-2024, as well as the entity Cape Nature. Honourable Chair, we are living in times when the world is grappling with unprecedented environmental challenges. We recently looked at the recent hurricane in the USA and extreme storms we've experienced locally over the last and past year. And actually the past 24 months. In recent times, we were challenged with the flooding, fires, etc. And we're going to again enter into a fire season that I think can be very difficult, but also we had to deal with droughts 2018-19, etc. Then if you look at the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report of 2024, identifies top 4 challenges for the next decades, all to do with the environment, extreme weather, critical change to Earth systems, biodiversity loss and collapse of ecosystems, and then natural resources shortages. So it's all to do with the environment. Now, Chair, although these global risks, we are experiencing them here today as well in South Africa, and we have the responsibility and the duty to protect our environment and our natural resources such as water and clean air to the benefit of future generations in our province. We know that the Western Cape will become hotter and drier in the future, and we know that extreme weather events such as droughts and floods will be more intense when they occur. I want to congratulate HOD Gerber and the team for the critical work that they've done, and also to prepare us going into a very difficult future. And our development planning, our enforcement of environmental legislation, all the sectors within this department play a crucial role in keeping us on the right track. So I want to congratulate the department, not only the HOD, but the whole team. A highly competent team working together to find solutions. And one of the solutions was to try and streamline climate change throughout this government. I think they've managed to convince all the departments that climate change must be in the middle of all their programs, the core to all their programs. And I think future generations will get the benefit of that. Modern people don't often, Honourable Chair, or they quickly forget that they are also part of nature, and they also need a clean, healthy environment to live in. So going forward, alien clearing programs directly improves the water quality. So because we're also under budget constraints, etc., we need to tap into the low-hanging fruits, and that is an alien clearing program, speaking to the quality of the water as well as the quantities of the water within the system that we need, clearing aliens from our catchments in our rivers also improve the soil's ability to absorb rainfall, and it will help us with to lessen the impact of flooding when they occur. Then alien clearing programs also reduce the risk associated with wildfires. Alien vegetation burn hotter than more intense than indigenous plants like fynbos, etc. And then air quality monitoring is a very effective tool to keep industrial polluters within the legal limits, which again impact directly on our health if left unchecked. So it's important that we keep a very close eye, and that the committee keeps a very close eye also, that we don't only focus on water and energy and those kind, and then forget about the clean air, the air that we breathe in. Then, Chair, later on after this report, we will also talk to Cape Nature, is our conservation agency. And I want again want to congratulate the board and HOD Dr. Ashley Naidu for the excellent work that they've done. Cape Nature for me is a state-owned entity and a shining example that state-owned entities can work, not like we pick up in the national newspapers that most of our entities fail. Cape Nature is a shining example of how it can work and contribute towards a better environment and a better Western Cape. So the entity Cape Nature manages a conservation estate of around about 1 million hectares during the reporting period. They added 45,000 hectares as well as 11 land stewardship agreements to this portfolio. Chair, we work, this department and Cape Nature does is crucial, but the financial realities is also that we constricted by the government budgets that severely impact our ability to do our work. We are now at a stage where our ability to perform our legally prescribed mandates are being threatened. And just why I just mentioned this so that the committee can take note of that. My main priorities going forward for the next term will be firstly growth through spatial transformation, and secondly the future proofing of this province through climate resilience. Through climate resilience, two of my top priorities for the coming term. With that, I'm going to hand over to my HOD. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, Chairperson, members, colleagues. Firstly, to start off by thanking Minister for his leadership and the ministry, and then as also indicated in the annual report, to all our dedicated senior management team members, as well as throughout the department, all our colleagues. It was a difficult year. The budget reductions and the budget uncertainty certainly had an impact on our delivery, but still managed to achieve most of our targets as set out. As highlighted by Minister, we serving both present and future generations. The human rights are front of mind in terms of the environmental quality considerations, and having to address the needs of the present generations while making sure we also looking after the needs of future generations. And across the portfolio of work, as you'll see in the annual report, critical work performed during the year under question. I'd also like to thank Cape Nature as our 3C entity in terms of the good work done during the year under review, as you'll see in their annual report. Yeah, I'll leave it at those few words. Thank you. I'm going to give it over to Dr. Naidu and to the board chairperson in terms of any introductory words from them, if that's fine, Chair.
Thanks. I think before we do that, we can just give an opportunity if any of the members want to ask any questions. We are going to take, I think, the introduction for Cape Nature and the environment report together. So that was the introduction for both. Is there anything that any of the members would like to raise on those introductions and welcoming statements? Okay, thanks very much. Then please go ahead, HID, with your introductions. And if we can start with the environmental report, we're going to be looking at parts A, B, and D of the report. We will then take those reports as read and go through the various sections one by one and take any questions, comments, or statements on those, which can then be responded to by the Minister and the department. All right. HOD, if there is anything that you would like to, any of your officials to mention, raise now, I'll give you opportunity to do that, and then we'll crack on with part A.
Maybe just some introductory words from the Cape Nature board and from CEO.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, MC, and good morning again, Chair and members. Again, just to reiterate, we see ourselves as implementing a lot of the work, and the ambition coming out of the last 5 years and going into the next one is really building resilience in the province through managing the nature-based services. That's how we see our role. It's a large task with over 1 million hectares, 111 reserves, 500 board staff and 500 expanded public works staff. But our role is to ensure that as far as we can, the water sources are there, resilience to disease is there, refuges from heat, flood and heat and extreme drought is also there, and that comes through by protecting ecosystems on that. It's the most cost efficient and it's the major safety net that citizens have. With that, I'll hand over to our outgoing chair. Thank you.
Morning, Chair and members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. I was the chairperson of Cape Nature for a few years and I've resigned recently because of health reasons. But I was the chairperson for the period which is under review, so that explains my presence here this morning. I think everybody has read the report that you have in front of you for Cape Nature, and I think the work that we've done as Cape Nature speaks for itself when you go through the report. I'm not going to rehash that information. Cape Nature has been mandated by the Constitution to conserve the biodiversity of the Western Cape. And this area covers quite a wide set of habitats in the Western Cape, which includes parts of the Karoo. It includes protected marine and coastal reserves and also a number of islands. It includes many rivers and their estuaries, and also the Cape Floral Kingdom. And I suppose we could ask the question, what is it that Cape Nature does to conserve the biodiversity in a short line as it's prescribed in the Constitution? And what I'm going to do in a very short period of time is to try and illustrate some of the points that talks to what it is that we do as Cape Nature to address the mandate as it's outlined in the Constitution in 3 short points. And the one is to conserve the biodiversity as is outlined in the bill, as it were, the Act. I mentioned that the area in the Western Cape includes 4 fairly varied areas, but in order to focus on the importance of the biodiversity, what I'm going to focus on is, in fact, the Cape Floral Kingdom, which constitutes a small part of this diverse area in the Western Cape. And if you were to look at a map of the world, you'd be able to divide the plant kingdoms into 6 biomes, and it's kind of indicated in the book that we've handed out to people. And so the whole northern part of the map talks to the boreal or the holo-Arctic, and so that includes China, large parts of Asia, in fact, all of that, Europe, and North America, Greenland. That's holo-Arctic. Below that in Africa, you have Palo-Arctic. On the other side, you have Neotropical South America. Then you have Antarctic, Australasian. That gives us 5. The last one is the one that we're talking about, which is the Cape Floral Kingdom. It's the smallest plant kingdom in the world, makes up about 0.04% of the land mass, as it were, but it contains something like 9,000 to 10,000 different species. I mean, it's huge, but high diversity. And it's that area that Cape Nature has been entrusted and mandated to preserve and to look after the biodiversity. Many of the plants that you find here occur nowhere else in the world. And the task of Cape Nature is to preserve that biodiversity for all future generations in the Western Cape, in South Africa, and also the world. Secondly, one of the other things that we've been tasked to do is to assist in development of a sustainable biodiversity economy. The importance of that is quite clear. We want to be sure that this biodiversity will benefit all people in South Africa, in the Western Cape, so that people derive benefit from this biodiversity that we've inherited from the people before us. And then the third point, which brings me to the last point, which is essentially what the Minister has spoken about, is this issue of climate change, mitigating climate change, and secondly, talking to the issue of water resilience in the Cape area. Now, there's no doubt that weather patterns are changing across the world. We all remember the drought that we had a few years ago, where we had severe water shortages in the Cape area. And what is it that we as Cape Nature can do to mitigate these severe water shortages? Well, one of the important problems associated with where our water comes from is most of the water comes from those Cape folded mountains that we have in the Cape area. That constitutes the places where rain falls, and the rain then accumulates, comes down in the rivers, and we collect that in our dams. Many of our catchment areas are infested with alien vegetation. And so one of the important tasks that we do as Cape Nature is to clear that alien vegetation so that we increase the effectivity and the effectiveness of collecting water, putting that into our dams so that we have sufficient water. So if we manage your water catchments effectively, the amount of water that's available to the people in the Cape area would increase. And so we need to prioritize alien clearing, and we also need to be able to, that will allow us to manage fires, which of course has a fairly large problem in the Cape area. So the work that Cape Nature does is critical. It's important for the people as we currently find ourselves in the Cape, but also for future people. And I think that the work that we've done has been quite effective in terms of addressing the mandate that we've been given. We can't do this work on our own. We really absolutely depend on the support of Minister Bradell, and he's done quite a bit of that in the past. He's always battled for the environment and for Cape Nature. We also depend crucially on the support from our department, the Department of Environmental Affairs. And so for that, thank you to the head of the department and your staff. And I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity to say a few words at my exit from the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm not quite sure whether the current chair would want to say a few words. Thank you very much.
I'll be very brief, just to support what has been said before by the Minister and the outgoing chair in terms of the importance of the environment. And I think the quote that comes to mind is one must always remember that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the ecology. So I think that's the importance of what Cape Nature does cannot be underestimated.
Thanks. I think a very profound statement to end off. That's great. All right. So shall we then move on to part A of the first report that we're going to be considering? And part A is on pages 5 to 23 of the physical report and pages 5 to 23 as well of the PDF if you are following that online. And let's start with part A. Are there any questions, queries, issues, statements that anybody would like to raise on part A of the report? Are we checking online? Is anyone online got a hand up? No, not at the moment. I think the only thing that I would potentially then like to say, Minister, is, you know, your points around climate change are very well taken. And I think there are many ways that have been, many aspects that have been identified in this report of how progressive the Western Cape government's environmental team is when it comes to climate change issues. And, you know, it really is one of those situations where we have to stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, we can end up with a far more serious disaster. If you look at what's happening potentially in some of the other provinces now with water management issues, it's a real thing, and it's here. And I think going into summer season as well, working with the disaster risk management teams in the local government sphere, we are going to potentially be dealing with a lot of fire risks. So I just think, you know, from my perspective, I think it's a very well put together report. and that introduction or the first section is good. I don't know, Minister or HOD, if there's anything you'd like to add.
Just to highlight the fact that as indicated by Minister in terms of based on the work, our situation analysis, looking at this year under question and moving into the new 5-year term, climate change, future fit province, key priority for the Western Cape government. So yes, building on the work that we've done and our investment in terms of our climate change response strategy that we've reviewed, the implementation plan, and then yes, it requires a whole of government, whole of society approach. So critical work underway with the partners, but you'll see the foundational work that we've done in the year under review. And yes, critical work that's continuing, and we're looking forward to future engagements with the committees in terms of the work. Thank you.
Chair. Chair, I also think it's important just to mention that we also do critical work on the waste side. We've started years ago to try and firstly, it was very important to license all our dumping sites and then to help with the program to decommission those that's outside or that you couldn't license, and then to get those that you license to work within the license conditions. It's something that between the department's director and the Green Scorpions, they manage very closely and with strict discipline. But we all know that if you're out there, it still seems like our neighborhoods are filthy and that we need to do more. So the whole recycle economy, everything, it's complex matters because it's also a behavior change matter that we need to address. So you will see that they also do a lot to try and centralize the dumping sites within districts, so that one of the reasons is also so that we can create mass so that you can recycle economically. But the recycle economy is also a very long chain of job creation, etc., etc. So it's also work that's ongoing, and hopefully in the future, I know that in the future, if we're on the right track, we must just keep on, and then you will also see the benefit of those programs in the communities.
Thanks very much, Minister. All right, we're going to move on to part B then, performance information. And this is a lot more detailed, and this goes from page 25 to 49. And I'm going to give members a brief chance just to orientate themselves. All right, do we have any questions or comments on the overall performance of the department? Anybody online? All right. Okay then. So, I mean, one of the things that I'd like to raise is if we go on to page 80, starting from page 80 onwards, and that's where we refer to these issues around air quality management, the pollution and waste management performance, and it's quite clear if we're looking at the overall achievements, there's been certainly a meeting of those targets. The only thing that I would probably point out is that in some of these issues, in many of these cases, we have overachieved quite significantly. So I think it's worth highlighting that as positive performance going forward. I do think that we're still going to be facing numerous challenges when it comes to pollution and waste management. We, in fact, in the last local government meeting that we had on Friday, there was a request that came in from some of the committee members to have a formal presentation from the City of Cape Town on issues relating to water quality and sewage, which we will probably take up, I'm sure, early next year because of the very full agenda. But I just thought it's worthwhile highlighting that in terms of the the overall achievements. Any other points anyone wants to raise? Good. Okay, it seems like everyone's done their job. Minister Vidal?
Chaps, I just think it's important because these members wasn't part of Friday's session, and there was quite a, yeah, it was, if I can put it, an anger into the municipalities polluting our water sources, our river systems, our estuaries, our ocean, and that we seriously need to look at the 30-year plan. Now, we do have the 15-year water plan, but that municipalities must recycle that water and bring it back. Otherwise, they pollute our systems, and it costs millions and millions of rand then to clean it up, as they must now drench the Milnerton Lagoon as well. So I just think it's important to flag, because a lot of the individuals that will be part of the setting those legislation in work will be within this department. So thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Minister. All right, so we'll take part B then as accepted. If we can then move on to the final section that we're going to be looking at, which is part D, and that is from page 75 to 81. Well, fine. Sorry. Oh, when is it from? 141. Yeah, but this one's got a chance. Oh no, sorry, that's the Cape Nature. Reading the wrong one. Sorry, I read the one for Cape Nature. It's from pages 140 to page 186. Yeah. Okay. Colleagues, any questions on the HR and HR management side of things? Okay. Minister, from my side, and I know the same is the case for Cape Nature, and we'll get into that in a second, but obviously a huge part of, you know, what we're trying to do within our own parliament and your government is to create job opportunities where possible. And the performance looks good overall. There's consistent a pool of staff that are being trained to a high standard. And carrying out their duties at a very high standard. But I would just like to find out from your side whether the constrained budgets are presenting a challenge in terms of you know, of your overall HR and staffing, and how you are looking to address some of those challenges potentially going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, it's going to be difficult without a budget, because in this department, and we will always be very high on our operating budget, because we've got specialists within this department, specialists that you need, specialists, advice specialists that you need to help you getting the right policies and to protect the environment. It's difficult. It's a difficult portfolio. It's not easy topics to deal with. And then obviously you need to have the manpower also to go out and assist the municipalities, because it's not only within this department, but we all know that you cannot fix a municipality through email anymore. Because there's no skills on that side. So actually this department must go out and do the work there. And there we're going to need hands. We're going to need more people if we need to if we want to see the difference. So I think on that aspect, it's going to obviously influence the performance of the department. And then on things like the RCEP program, it's brilliant programs, but you need the budget to land that within the municipal space again. So throughout, the budget constraints do hamper us, but we also this team plays a huge role in guiding and supporting national, and doing a lot of the work on the national working groups. That also because it's also no use that in the Western Cape we get it right, but not in the rest of the country. So I think we must also respect that. I think they do contribute a lot on national level to try and get our policies, etc. right. And yes, we need to create jobs, and we all know that's the only way out of poverty, but we want green jobs. We want environmentally friendly jobs. And within that, our department needs also to step up and to be able to join the debate. I can tell you, we don't get pushed back by those people who only want to make money. We will protect the environment in the Western Cape. We will play our role in creating jobs, but creating green jobs, healthy jobs, so that we can ensure that our children and their children also can enjoy the beauty of clean air and clean water, etc. Specifically, we do have a focus now on our 15-year water plan and getting that right, because we cannot slip that, but we need to keep an eye on all aspects of. So air pollution is crucial, waste is crucial, etc. Biodiversity. But specifically, we need to, otherwise you're going to get to a stage where you will need to put billions and billions of dollars into our river systems, and we don't have that. The work that they've done in the Berg River, this team, and we would have loved to roll it out quicker and with more intensity into the breeder but keeping a close eye on our water quality, and that speaks to food security and food quality as well. At the end of the day, our health, etc. All these things got a ripple effect. And yeah, if there's a budget, but we understand that, as I said Friday, that we also as a department do understand that we want to save our teachers now and our health professionals, etc. Because what we always need to realize is government is a big machine, and the whole machine must work. Otherwise, we're going to end up in big trouble. So, understanding that, but from where I said, I just want the committee to understand that the people sitting on this side, they work under a lot of stress, and there's a lot of pressure on them. Thank you, Chair.
Actually,
thank you, Chairperson. Just to thank you, Minister. Just to add to that, being public servants to begin with, but also having the portfolio of sustainability, serving present and future generations at the same time, comes with a lot of pressure. And yes, the resource constraint, the budget constraints is a huge challenge. It also, of course, forces us to make sure that we are sufficient and effective and productive and innovative as possible. So our continuous work on our service delivery models is vitally important. But yes, the teams are taking strain. Last week was Mental Health Day, and as part of our provincial employee health and wellness program, but also the work underway in our department, we have to take care of our people so that our staff can, take care of the citizens, can serve the citizens. So we are fully exploring all the non-fiscal measures and, of course, within the fiscal measures, what's possible. But yes, we have invested in our capability in terms of our intelligence, our planning systems, and the technology that we're using in that space. Partnerships are absolutely key, both within the department, within the province, but also with the municipalities, with civil society, private sector, and more that's a key focus, because we certainly need, it is a whole of government, whole of society approach that is required. But yes, the pressure is on. Often, when we speak to the Department of Health, they always talk of the moral injury that's suffered by the staff, knowing that then even if they wanted to, they're not always able to provide the service of standard or to timelessly service everybody. We're sitting with the same. There's maybe a slight delay in terms of some of our the impacts if we don't properly serve. But that is something we're grappling with all the time. How do we make sure that we, with the limited resources, that we do as best as we can while exploring how to do better moving forward? And yes, part of that is also to make sure that as part of the budgeting process, we highlight the risks, we highlight the opportunities, and we assist with finding the best means to serve the human rights. But yes, it is through the dedication of the staff that we get through the difficult times. But we need to very carefully manage the employee health and wellness. We have a high vacancy rate, and we do have as we have budget pressures, the demand for our services are at the same time increasing. And the environmental quality matters in particular, as Chair also touched on, and Minister, in terms of air quality, environmental quality, the law enforcement work. More and more, there's a key demand for us to be very fast in some of our responses, and to also do certain things at a different scale. But we're excited in terms of where we're going, in terms of ecological infrastructure, and the climate change work, as well as the spatial work that are within the mainstream of growth for jobs. So if we want to accelerate our economic growth, but also sustain it into the future, climate change, spatial transformation, environmental quality, ecological infrastructure is part of that same integrated strategy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and thanks again to your team. I think mental health is a huge issue, particularly, over the past few years, how things have changed in the workplace, and the pressures that are on not only staff members, but I'm sure also on HODs and everybody involved. So, yeah, a big thank you to you and your staff for all of the hard work and the fantastic results that you managed to achieve. Colleagues, if we don't have any other questions or queries or statements, I think then we can take part D as accepted and close off then on the report on environment, unless there's anybody else who wants to raise an issue. Going once, going twice. All right, that's it. So quick and easy one there. If we can then move on to the Cape Nature report. I don't know, HOD, if you want to kick us off and hand over to Mr. Naidu.
Yeah, maybe to ask Chairperson if we may excuse then some of the officials that are not directly involved with the Cape Nature work. Thank you very much. So those colleagues can excuse themselves. Yes, then to a few introductory words. As mentioned, the Cape Nature as the 3C entity, critical assets that Cape Nature is looking after for the province, these provincial assets for present and future generations. It's a massive portfolio, a difficult mandate, but as Minister have also touched on, Cape Nature in terms of the benchmarking and the management effectiveness tool, and as all the measurements are showing, in spite of difficult circumstances and the pressures, Cape Nature doing very well. Of course, as with the department, we're always exploring continuous improvement, and the governance work that we've been undertaking in terms of the law reform and the governance systems that we've put in place are absolutely critical. But I'll then hand over to, I don't know whether Minister, I'll then hand over to Cape Nature if they wanted to come in on any strategic matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidi. Thank you, Chair. The report is tabled. I think the issues to highlight, taken from the conversation you had earlier, and in case there are questions, I won't go too much into detail. We also have managing a 25% vacancy rate at Cape Nature. So in terms of permanent employees, we have about 130 vacancies of over 400 posts. And the reason for that is we want to maintain a split of 60% salaries and 40% operations. We manage that very tightly. Whenever the new vacancies come up, we have at the executive level a vacancy management meeting. And there is some trading across directorates that occur when it needs to happen. But we try and fill the critical posts. There are some activities in the operations where for health and safety reasons, we can't reduce teams, firefighting teams working on the ground. So there's a standing that for teams, especially salary levels 5 or 4 and below, where they are making up teams, health and safety, you don't want teams to be too few in number. So we fill that fairly automatically. Higher levels of staff then take the hit. So salary levels between 9 to 12, you'll see from our reports, that's where the vacancies are growing. And it's not sustainable in the long run because this is where the planning occurs. This is where the design occurs and implementation occurs at other levels. So there is a long-term cost, but at the moment we're managing that, and that's where we're feeling the heat. If time allows later on, I'll talk about our infrastructure budget. And there's been some movement on that in the last few years with ourselves and Department of Infrastructure. A key technical point is that we have about 875 buildings on land managed by Cape Nature. So at no point does the land become Cape Nature's or the departments. They always remain assets of the province. And the structures, 875 or so buildings that we have, remain Department of Infrastructure buildings. We do not have an allocation on those, and they are also a point of concern in that increasingly they require maintenance. We have very specific funding for conservation and tourism activities, so it's difficult to us to make an argument for ordinary maintenance of structure. So we need some discussions, or we're having some ongoing discussions at MEC level on the management of infrastructure. We spoke about the climate risks. Increasingly, we find that because we need to open reserves, floods knock us quite badly, and our reserves go towards immediate repair, mainly around roads, so that we can open reserves as soon as possible after floods. I'm told that in the last 2 years, we've had one in 100-year floods, and that has taken away much of critical roads, but we can speak about that later. So with that, few opening remarks. Not all is doom and gloom, Chair. We do have a budget of 400 million. We have 500 permanent, 500 expanded public works staff. Not all doom and gloom. The entity has met their targets. Good financial application. SCM is difficult, but not impossible. At the moment, I just looked at our SCM register. We have 99 transactions of over 100,000. So all of that requires some sort of very specific tender process, and we manage that and generally do quite well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. We have already had a bit of info from the previous chair, so I don't think we need to go back into that. But if we can then move on to the first part, which is part A, from page 5 to page 23. Are there any points that anyone would like to raise on part A? We're looking online there. Anybody online? All right. Okay. I think part A then we will take as agreed. Yep. We move then on to part B, which is from page 25 to page 49. We have Member Johnson, and then we have Member Wessels. Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just firstly, congratulations on another unqualified audit and a great report. It's quite challenging to find a sort of underperformance to question, which I guess is a good thing. Just on page 39 on table 3, administration and governance, on the finance and information and communication technology, the ICT, just the overspent on that line. Just saw that it's quite a big overspent in terms of what was budgeted for. Just if we can get explanation on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Johnson. Member Wessels.
Thank you, Chair. Page 32, it's just a question, just for information maybe. It speaks to 122% increase or grew that the Triple P, the public-private partnerships. Just want to know a bit more about some of those, or about those projects, because I didn't see it. I didn't see some of them mentioned here, and I assume that is why we've exceeded our annual target by 24%. And then we speak about fires and fire management, and the critical role that that's playing. So I would just like to know, is there a specific reason on then why the last 5 years there's a significant drop in the amount of what I assume is controlled fires to the previous 5 years? Because I saw in 2014-15, it's 153, then 160, then 144, then 133, and then 100. Whereas the last 5 years, the maximum per year was 89, with the 66, 76, 87, 73, and 89. Is that controlled fires or fires in? Well, I assume it's controlled fires.
Thanks. Nothing. Okay. Minister, and sorry, maybe just directly, Mr. Nadi. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. I'm going to split it to the technical managers. On ICT is managed within our CFO's budget. So CFO will, I know there's a specific answer to that. And then on the growth in PPP, after CFO talks about ICT spend, Mr. Ismail will talk about the PPP as well. And then fire management, the management of control burns, Coral or Mbolelo? Okay, Coral will do that. Thank you, Chair. So first with the CFO.
Thank you very much, CEO, and thank you, Chair. I think the answer for the question regarding to the overspend is, unfortunately, in terms of the way the budget.
Don't interrupt. Just pop your mic on.
Oh, it is on. Sorry. Yes.
You know what? That's the one that doesn't have a light, I think. Yeah. Okay. Carry on.
So yes, I think just to speak more clearly is that in terms of the way the budget is set on a cash basis, whereas the reporting information is on a accrual basis. So it's a GRAP year-end adjustments. So the overspend actually relates to non-cash items for GMT expenditure. So in terms of the GRAP standards and the requirements from the is that the GMT expenditure, which is budgeted in the different programs, but at year end, we've got to do an adjustment to take it out of travel expenditure and put it in as an asset because it's considered a finance lease asset. So there's certain year end adjustments for GRAP that is passed. So those adjustments are done within program 1 within the finance unit. So therefore it shows that it's over an expenditure. But in reality, if you actually look at the financial information on page 100 and get the correct page number. If you look at page number 105 of the on the annual report, in terms of the statement of comparison of budget and actual, you'll notice for the year there was actually an underspend in total.
Thanks very much. Member Vessel's question. Yeah, that's been answered. Hey, Ishmael's going to do that. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the PPPs, obviously because of COVID in prior years, we were approached by our PPP partners. We have 3 PPP partners at the Work Nature Reserve, looking at giving them some sort of a relief because of COVID and the impact that it had on their revenue and on their products. This was tabled at the executive and supported by the Cape Nature Board. And I think last financial year is the first year of normalization where things have got back to normal for our PPP partners. And that's why we can see the significant growth from post-COVID to where we find ourselves today. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. I think on the topic of De Hoop Nature Reserve, I was at a presentation the other day on the incredible work that's being undertaken there to develop a new penguin colony. And I was absolutely fascinated by all of the steps that are being put in place with dummy penguins and fake penguin noises and all sorts of things. And then also hearing about the challenges with the, honey badger breaking in and eating a few of them. But it's just incredible to see these sorts of things being carried out, these experimental projects. Obviously, there's funding coming from external sources as well, but that we are able to, really move, above and beyond what is happening elsewhere in the country, and really start to roll out progressive plans and programs. We are going to Stony Point in a few weeks, but had I known earlier about this, I probably would have scheduled this one first, even though it's a little bit further. But I'm sure at some stage we'll go out there and see what's taking place. Yes, is there another reply? Of course, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Vessels, for the question related to fire. So I think in terms of the assumption that what is reported in the figure 1 on table page 31, so that in terms of the extent, so it speaks to the area that had been burnt in a given year compared to the number of ignitions or the number of fires, which are not controlled burns. So those are wildfires that occur in the province, and what we report on are those fires that occur on Cape Nature property or that may start adjoining a Cape Nature property where we are involved. So that is just to put it into the context in terms of what is actually reported. So it doesn't reflect controlled burns, it's wildfires. And to those we respond year in, year on, and a decrease in the number and the extent may be a good thing. If one thinks from an ecological perspective, one wants felt to be in different age categories in a sort of a mosaic across the landscape, so that they don't burn too early or too late. So that influences how and where we respond to a fire in terms of whether one will let an area burn, burn it back, or whether one would rush to put it out if it's an ecological risk. Thank you.
Any other inputs on those questions?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up. Umbulelo, is the honey badger mechanism working? I read the last report to say that the honey badgers tried to get in, but were unsuccessful. For the penguins, do you know?
We have to keep an eye on those honey badgers. Okay, we got Member Johnson with the follow-up.
Thank you, Chair. Just on page 43, table 6, the work opportunities created through the biodiversity sector economy. It says their planned annual target for 23-24 is 700. And I do see that it says that the annual indicator and achievement is only reported during Q4. I just want to find out, is there any actuals available at this stage yet, or are you still waiting for the final actuals for the work opportunities created?
Thanks. Okay, so I think we've kind of bled now into, so that was page 83, right?
43.
43, okay, great. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we're still in part B. Yes.
Thank you. I think there are actuals available. Ibrahim, do you have the latest figures?
Thank you. Just some clarity. I think the table that is seen on page 43, the reason for the table being there and there actually being no performance indicator, there was an in-year change on this indicator. And in terms of the Department of the Premier's protocols and guidelines, even though we have a change on the indicator, we actually have to present it as it was incorrectly. And then we also present it when it was corrected. So there was a name change on the indicator. So if you see on page 44, you will actually see the performance reflected. I think it's the second row. So the performance for the current for 23-24 was 1,580 actual performance.
Member Johnson, you got a follow-up?
Through you, Chair. Apologies. Just what's the page number?
44.
44.
Just flip over.
Are you satisfied with that, Member Johnson? All right. Any other inputs on that one? No? All right. Any other queries, follow-ups? Just from my side, and I think it's another positive story, is the number of EPWP staff that you are able to consistently employ. I mean, even though we know EPWP is a national program, it's all dependent on, how much you make use of those opportunities. So going into the next section, part D, I just want to emphasize how much of a positive that is. I think my query is whether or not we see again, and it's not the nicest question, but we are looking at whether or not we're going to be able to sustain that level of EPWP jobs going forward, and if not, what sort of an impact that could potentially have on your overall activities at your facilities.
Thank you, Chair. Trying to see which way to start. Because of our 25% vacancy rate of permanent staff, we do rely on EPWP for much of the operations where Mbulela's working. So they are completely integral to Cape Nature. To reach 111 reserves, 1,000 hectares, where there's fire breaks that have to be managed, fences have to be mended, maintenance, they're integral. So Cape Nature was the first entity to pilot a 3-year employment. So the candidates are not employed for 1 year, but for 3 years. We do invest in PPE, protective clothing, and we do in training courses. So that comes at a cost, but it's worth the investment because we get return on investment on managing the fire breaks, the fences. I'll come to you now for other aspects of work that EPWP does. But our intention is not only to maintain, but already start negotiations with MEC to argue that we double that in the next 5 years. On that, we can, in our estimation, with our current middle management and senior management Cape Nature, with some stretching, wanting to go from 500 to 1,000. If DFFE makes the allocation to us and can commit to 3 years, we will absorb those people. And the return on investment in terms of water security for alien management and clearing. When we clear aliens, alien management improves water security, but also manages in terms of fire risk, because alien plants are the ones that tend to burn faster and hotter. So managing alien plants, the return on water scarcity, also on fire breaks. So if we allowed the flexibility, we would like in the next 5 years, we're currently doing our stat plan now, first version's due tomorrow, and would like to move that from 500 to 1,000. Thank you. And Mbulelo, just to talk about other activities EPWP does.
Thank you, Chair. I think also equally important is from a tourism point of view. We have our cleaning services generally are done by EPWP, our security services as well. Where it's safe for them, obviously, we also do that. Awareness raising from an environmental point of view, also engaged, or rather we also assist, or rather they also assist with that, obviously after being trained by our own permanent staff members. But I think more importantly is around fire management, that they play a huge role. We train them on fire management, so they are some of them are our firefighting teams as well. And so the amount of experience also that's imparted on those EPWP staff members, because also what happens is, like the CE has mentioned, they move on after the 3 years, if not absorbed into the entity as well. So we are over indebted, in fact, in terms of how they are assisting the entity. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other points anyone wants to raise? Comments, questions? Anything online? All right. So we've moved through part D as well. If there are no further questions, Member Stoffel, welcome. It's good to have you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not much of the meeting left. It's been quite a quick one. So we're about to close, but just no problem. I'd just like to say thanks then on behalf of the committee to all of the officials who have come along today from both Cape Nature and from the department. We do sincerely appreciate the work, and even though it's been a quick meeting, I think that goes to say quite a lot for the good work that's been done and how clean this report is, and the overall audits as well. So thank you very much. There will be obviously another scope of meeting later to discuss the detail of the Auditor General's report. But if there is nothing else from any of the members or officials, we will then let the officials leave. Minister, you also excused. And the rest of the committee, we will look at our resolutions going forward.
Chairperson, just there are tea and coffee at the back, and the officials are also welcome for lunch this afternoon, please. Otherwise, it's fruitless and wasteful. And my colleagues from Scopa asked that you could just be here at 2:30, because they're going to try and move up the process a little bit.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Hoe doen jy? No, my questions is more for afternoon. Public.
All right. Sorry, can I just, sorry, everyone, I don't want to be rude, but we just want to quickly wrap up the resolutions, and we'll see you for a coffee afterwards. Thanks. Yes, we're done. So you are more than welcome to stay if you like, but it's going to be I think, relatively quick. Yeah. Okay, members, we'll go through the two reports, starting with environment. Are there any resolutions that anybody would like to propose or motions with regards to the report? I think perhaps what we can just say is that the report was noted and accepted in parts A, B, and D.
Oh, Chair, I agree with you. It was straightforward.
All right. There was nothing significant that came out of it, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the same
That
with the
caused
Cape Nature
concern.
report.
Yes. Yeah. And the same with Cape Nature. I think the only thing I would say with Cape Nature is just potentially highlighting the possibilities for increased EPWP work opportunities, and ensuring that that's prioritized going forward in order to sustain their work. Yeah. Member Stoffel?
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning. Chair, I think in terms of the reports, I was listening. I've logged in virtual. So I was listening to reports. So it was quite exciting and very progressive, I must say. and knowingly that we are dealing with a new baby. It's an unpredictable baby in terms of climate change. But I think, Chair, as one of the resolutions, we should really look into the issue of the environmental commissioner. We should really look into that. That will assist the government. It will assist even us as a standing committee dealing with environmental challenges to be more prepared in terms of dealing with the issue, and to be more structured for that matter, and to have more information in terms of our disaster victims, our disaster sites, and really I want to put emphasis to so that and knowing it's a constitutional obligation. It should be there. I've heard the MEC said there's a matter of funds, there's struggling with funds and struggling with this, but I think if it's an entity on its own, it would then have that capacity to ask for its own budget. It won't rely on a budget that is for the prevalence and other issues. So I think from my side is that I just want the committee really to look into this and to look and how can that commission assist us in terms of addressing issues.
Thanks, Member Stoffel. Look, I think it's going to be tricky for us to formalize that as a resolution, because obviously we would need quite a lot of consensus in terms of that going forward. But I just want to find out, Mr. Kutsia, from your perspective and with your knowledge as being here in the previous term, which I don't think we were, this matter was, I think, quite extensively dealt with. Were there presentations and things to the committee, and was it discussed? You know, is there perhaps a report that maybe can be circulated to Member Stoffel's in terms of the feedback that was received previously?
Chair, yeah, I'm actually also really new in this part of the portfolio because I've dealt with environmental affairs, but the matter has been raised in terms of questions to the minister. There are handouts available in that. I can have a discussion with my colleague that dealt with environmental affairs before me, that I think there could have been briefings. Alternatively, I would not maybe take it up as a resolution, as it didn't really come up in the discussions today. But if Member Stoffel wants to, we can always program it that the department come and brief the committee on the status of the environmental commissioner and maybe what they would like to see in future, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't be comfortable putting that request in now without all of us having sight of those briefing documents. So if you could do that for us, Mr. Kutsia, get those briefing documents, request those, and see if we can then find out exactly where we stand on it, because we haven't really discussed it in any depth yet. And as you mentioned, it wasn't technically part of the annual report and didn't come up in discussion. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll take that up as a resolution that I will obtain the information of the previous committee, and then submit it to the committee.
Thank you so much. All right, Member Stoffel.
And even Chair, if Mr. Hendricks can, Mr. Johan can manage even to have a presentation of it, so that we can really look in detail to say, what is this about? And then all of us can have even a broader understanding about this desk. So I would then even like us to add a presentation on itself, if possible, Chair.
I think that's it, yeah. So we'll start with the briefing and then, yeah, okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, if there aren't any other proposed resolutions, that brings to a close our very short and sweet meeting. It's a lot shorter than the local government one was on Friday. But thank you everyone for attending, and Member van Minnen for filling in. Your contribution is also appreciated, and we will see you probably for the next meeting which I think is the Stony Point site visit. Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. And feel free to have some coffee and stick around later for lunch.